because I heard that you were very, when you were young, and you grew up in Queens, New York, that you were kind of following the music of Lennon and George Harrison. That's kind of how you got your inspiration to play guitar.
Well, definitely Harrison started it off, and Harrison and Lennon were the first two guitarists that really, that I saw. I mean, I was a kid, I was on the Beatles and all that. Then it was the rest of that first British invasion, which of course was, Dave Clark 5, The Animals,
right.
Zombies, Yardbirds, all these different bands in that sort of 64, 65 period. And I wasn't hip yet to the Dylan thing that was working the other end of things. And then the second invasion, with bands like John Mayall's Blues Breakers with Clapton and of course the Cream really
right.
being the kickoff. And even Hendrix, sort of came by via he was doing his stuff over here, but then he went
right.
over to England, and that's where Chas Chandler, the bass player for the Animals, put the Hendrix experience, and sort of like they almost kind of broke from England too. So you had all these bands, Fleetwood Mac, Jeff Beck, and eventually other bands like Zeppelin a couple of years later. But those are the things that started me off. I would say George and John, and then that second explosion with the lead guitar players, especially like Clapton and Hendrix,
right.
being so explosive, and then guys like Jeff Beck, Peter Green, Mick Taylor, and then the guys over here. I think the first two guitarists that I really got excited about over here were probably Johnny Winter and Mike Bloomfield.
Okay.
And then between all those younger guys, they turned us on to the Kings, B.B. Albert, Freddie, and then guys like Otis Rush and Buddy Guy and Magic Sam, all these other guys, and then eventually going further back to Delta guys and all this like Robert Johnson and stuff like that. But that was it. And I had I was split between two cultures. I'm definitely a New York City boy, but my mom's from Texas.
Oh.
And used to spend time in Texas. We used to go down there once or twice a year for either Easter or Christmas or both. So down there I'd get a little bit of that culture, and I think it's a little bit of an influence.
Wow. Yeah. I was curious, was there a time when you were kind of like wondering where the lines were in terms of rock and blues? I mean, because you...
No, it was different back then, even radio. I mean, radio can go from Howlin' Wolf to the Cream to Zeppelin, and then all of a sudden into a Miles Davis song. And I liked it better back then. They didn't have to categorize it so much. And it seemed like, blues were the guys that have been doing blues for years. And
right.
rock was rock. And even though Cream's first album, Zeppelin's first album, Allman Brothers' first album, Jeff Beck's first album, were all blues based, and even songs of Willie Dixon or Howlin' Wolf or
right.
Everybody was doing their songs. They weren't called blues bands or blues rock bands. They were just called rock.
Right.
So now there's this thing, and unfortunately I think it's been a little bit tough for me because we fall on the cracks.
Right.
The blues guys say we're rock, and the rock guys say we're blues.
Oh, okay.
So they have to categorize it now. So it's kind of silly. I wish there wasn't so much categorizing of it and putting it in its slot or whatever it is. It's kind of an interesting thing that they do that. I think they limit it. I think they limit the music.
Right.
And I think sometimes I refer to a certain group of people out there as the blues Nazis. And if their tastes were a little bit wider, they would. I think they would bring in more young people. But who knows?
Yeah, I understand. Listen, how did you hook up with Sheryl Crow? I know that you did some time out in California and you were playing with rock bands out there. But how did you hook up with her? And
well, we have a mutual friend, Stephen Weintraub, who's known now in the business as Scooter, and he's now my manager and her manager and other people's manager.
Right.
But he became friendly with her out on the road. He was going out on tours, working on the tours, not as a musician. And he went out on the Michael Jackson tour, which Sheryl was a backup singer for.
Right.
And basically, they became friends, and then she came to visit New York, and he introduced me to her. And she came and sat in, and that was like between 88 and 89. She came to town 2 or 3 times and sat in. We did something like Chain of Fools or I Can't Quit You Back. I mean,
right.
It's a few different songs we would do together. And she said to me one day, she goes, look, you want to, she liked the trio that I had at the time. She said, you want to come out and we'll do some writing and see if we can get a record deal. And I said, yeah. So I went out. It was in 1990. I went out there at late '89, but we did a demo tape. It had 4 or 5 songs on it, and we did it. We did a showcase. Nothing came of it.
Right.
And she went about her business. I think she started singing backup for Don Henley.
Right.
And I decided I wanted to go out there because I was never a full-time musician. I was playing out in clubs in New York, but
right.
I still had a 9 to 5. So I went out there and started working with Carla Olson, who had the band the Textones.
Right.
So I worked with her, and I had my own trio going. I was doing some soundtrack work, and then Sheryl's thing came back full circle. It was, she made an album with a group of guys, and she wanted to get out on tour.
Right.
She asked me if I wanted to go, and the next thing I know, it's almost 5 years later up the road. So we did. We were on the road for quite a while.
Wow. Why did you finally separate with her?
Well, I had a blues thing I was doing on the side, which became known as the Blues Project for lack of a better name.
Right.
And I had a band called Mojo Sun. We were signed to A&M Records.
Right.
And we were getting ready to release the album. And it was my band, and so in '98 I wound down with her.
Right.
I was actually gonna continue on through the summer of '98 with her because she was gonna do the Lilith Fair dates that we had done the previous year.
Right.
And she was gonna open up for the Stones in Europe. But she was working on the Globe Session record, and she decided to bag doing Lilith Fair. And she was just going to do the Stones dates, which I was going to do with her. We had already opened
Right.
for the Stones in '89. I mean, in '98, and it was a lot of fun. But the Stones canceled it because it was dates in the UK, and they did that tax thing.
Yeah.
So then that was the last I did with her, and then we were supposed to release the album on A&M Records.
Right.
But A&M got taken over. There was a parent company that sold
Right.
all the the label groups, and the album never came out.
Oh.
So I had to get busy doing something else. So I put together a band, and we were doing a little blues project thing on the side, and it became a little bit more of Mojo Sun. It might lean a little bit more to the blues side, but it's still that rock infused
rock.
blues.
Yeah. So the tracks are still there. Just they haven't been released yet. Is that what you're saying? Or?
They were never released. No, I've redone a lot of them with my band.
Wow.
But the Mojo Sun sessions were never released. I liked them to get released because it was an interesting lineup. It was another guy who sang most of the lead vocals and played guitar, and he was in Sheryl Crow's band. And it was a guy, a drummer by the name of Mike Lawrence, who's in a few different bands. One of them, Sun 60, and it was the bass player Eric Massimino, who was in my other project for a while. But there's some great tracks.
Wow. Now I understand right now that you're releasing or you're working on a DVD combination CD.
That's been released. They're separate, but the same. The DVD and the CD. Well, the CD's that one night. It's all the original stuff of that one particular night that we made the DVD.
Right.
Then there's other covers that are on the DVD, and then there's some footage. There's about 4 songs from a festival we did in Germany called the Fehmarn Fest.
Okay.
Which was its 40th anniversary of the first one. That was Jimi Hendrix's last show.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we did that
the night before he died, I guess it was, right? Or...
Well, he died a couple of weeks later, but it was his last concert that he did.
Got it. Yeah.
And it was in Fehmarn, Germany, and so there's footage of that, and it was great. It was we played prime time. I think it was a Friday night, and it was like somewhere like around 9 o'clock at night. It was 20,000 Germans all revved up and ready to go, and it was great. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. So what's happening now? What are you doing now?
Gonna get ready to make another studio album.
Okay.
With original stuff. There'll be a few covers on it, but mainly original stuff.
When are we gonna see it?
Hopefully by spring of 2012.
Oh, okay. And who do you have on it? Have you picked the people you're gonna work with? Or?
Well, right now the live band is Roger Voss, who's been with me for almost 3 years, and we just made a bass player switch, and the bass player is Justine Gardner.
Oh,
graduate
okay.
of Berklee School of Music, young girl, young bass player, and every now and then we use different percussion players, and so I'm not sure. I'm just amassing the stuff together now, getting it all ready.
I see. That's good. That's good. Wow. So has changing bass players sort of changed your sound a little bit, or is that?
I think it's going to. We just started. We just did a few gigs. I think with the Slavik his vocabulary is a bit different, and was probably would mix it up more, do different things. I mean, more like a soloist, whereas Justine is more of a groove bass player, more traditional, and more rooted in American bluesy, rootsy kind of music.
Got it.
So I think she's a simpler player, but she grooves really well.
It's good. Wow. Todd, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah.